welcome everyone to NAWRB. Today is theme number 6, which is Speak Out. So talking about unconscious bias. So women in the industry, is there unconscious bias in leadership? I'm Brandy Nelson. I am with commercial and residential with Windermere Commercial and Windermere Homes and Estates. And for me, doing commercial, there's a lot of unconscious bias. So I started in commercial around 11 years ago. Before that, doing REOs. So REOs about 14 years ago. And with commercial, I got a lot of. I had a partner who was an older man as my partner, and they would speak directly to him and not to me, even though I was the one speaking. So I was the one doing the speaking, but they weren't looking at me, they were looking at him. And so I had a lot of that. And I think it was just pushing through to say, hey, I'm here, I'm speaking, this is what we're talking about, until they finally felt comfortable that, hey, I was the one running the show. This is how we do it. So I don't feel that way anymore. I haven't felt that way in a long time. It was just when I first started. You still get the occasional hey, are you the assistant? Are you, do you have somebody else? That type of thing, because it's just me now. But I don't have it as much. So Laura, would you like to talk about anything that's happened to you? Because I'm sure in your industry with auctions, etc.
Well, I also do commercial in the days that women brokers were not even recognized or talked to. And I happened to have someone who was one of the best in the business, especially in the motion picture industry, Leslie Kenworthy Avery. She's since passed, but she was brutal and the men really respected her and she did a lot. And, I've seen it grow, but it's still the good old boys club in a lot of the commercial because I still do a lot of it. And it's just like, okay, you got to change. But what's interesting, you brought up auctions. It's so wonderful to see the auction industry is really grown, and majority of the women auctioneers are 75% in the business now doing them. And I think that's great because I know years ago when I became one of the first real estate auctioneers in California, I went to the conference in New Orleans, and I went to walk in the door of the convention of these auctioneers, and they said, well, all the wives and the secretaries, they can go to the aquarium. And this is only for auctioneers. So I started to walk in and the guy grabbed me by the arm. He goes, didn't you hear me? You need to go to the aquarium and this is only for real auctioneers. And I said, well, I hate to tell you that I am a licensed bonded California auctioneer and I'm coming in. Being Italian, I'm running in. So anyway, during the whole conference, and this is quite a few years ago, all he did was say, we sell cows and we sell pigs and cars. And that lady thinks she's going to make a living selling real estate at auction. I wish he was alive to see it.
Wow.
Because it has changed. And women in the auctioneering business, let me tell you, there's none better than us.
Very well said. Angie, what about you?
I have kind of a funny story. One, it was just, I was a young homeowner and I bought a townhome and we were up late and the security guard came to the door and it was like, I opened the door and he's like, are your parents home? I was like, I'm the homeowner. Can I help you? So that was kind of just, a funny little story. But I feel like just as a young real estate agent, I got my license at 23 years old. And it was really an uphill battle with just people kind of thinking that I was too young to sell property. And it's a huge decision. So I had to really pile on that education so that I'm constantly teaching and educating people so that they understand that, I really do understand what we're doing over here. And yes, it's, I might be one of the younger ones in the industry, not anymore, but, at that time. And so, you kind of see it in a lot of different places. And I saw it a lot for age.
I agree with that. That's the same thing in commercial. A lot of times you'll have older crowd in commercial. So when you have a younger and female coming in, you have both biases against you. So you just have to show, hey, we are doing it. Education is key.
Right.
bringing out, just showing that you know what you're doing. So yeah, I agree with that as well. Deanne, what about you?
I think many of us that have been doing this a long time, we all have those stories. I mean, my career was an MBA in actually commercial real estate and was pursuing my CCIM. And this is dating back 25 years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember walking into my first, meeting, and one of the first things that occurred was somebody asked me whose assistant was I.
Yep.
And I was
Wow.
probably, Angie, about same like you. I think I was probably about 24, maybe at the time. And there was this little voice inside of me that was new to be professional. But I remember looking at this person and saying, well, I'm not anyone's assistant, but I plan to be hiring for one. And would you like to interview?
Yeah, we did.
It was just that, like, we're all human beings. And I knew I was young. And I remember kind of looking at that thinking of, wow, if there was someone with 25, 30 years experience, how is someone aspiring to really be in this for the longevity? Maybe I could learn from someone with seasonality, and someone, maybe I could bring something that they didn't know. Or maybe, I mean, this was like the days of, like, we had just all gotten like AOL emails.
Yeah.
And no one in the room knew what one was. And so imagine like what's happening in the dichotomy of today, where those of us now that have been in the business 10, 20, 30 years, when someone new comes in or someone that brings a different perspective, I think I'm just kind of looking at it like, when I walk into a room, how can I learn from you? And how can I learn from you? And how can I learn from you? And if I'm going to be trying to relate to the use and use and use, how can I gain something from your perspective? So today, at 25 years in the business, I don't know that I really I don't even want to I don't ever want to think that if I can bring something to the conversation, that anyone's looking beyond what the conversation or the impact or the movement or the way we can move things forward is. And I just won't be held back by letting someone have preconceived notions. For many years, I have a Southern accent. And I actually didn't pursue my career dream of being a broadcast journalism because somebody said nobody will take you serious with your Southern accent.
Oh, gee.
Oh,
And, those are the kind of things that we can either let inhibit us. And I did at the time. And now, you know, I want to be able to relate to someone with a different accent or someone with a different, perspective. So I think what's been so healthy, particularly this year more than ever, is everyone seems so receptive to understanding each other.
mhm.
And instead of looking down or aside, I think we're starting to look in and within each other to bring more meaningful conversations to help others. And that's what I think the pandemic and all the things we've endured this past year has brought to the.
Have you noticed that lately? I know I get a lot of calls because I do a lot of training for HUD and everyone else. How many agents are so grateful that you'll even answer your phone and talk
Yeah.
to them? I had one call me today from Orange County. Her client wants to look at a property in Palmdale, and she said no one would talk to her. And I said, why? I think it's really sad in our industry. People forget we're in the service business and we have a responsibility, like all of us that have a lot of experience. It doesn't take much to help someone. And what a gratifying feeling it is if you can help someone launch their career, and maybe they don't have to fall in the pit holes like some of us have. They
Right.
can learn from our mistakes, which I have a whole list. But I really feel very sad that agents are not even answering their phone, and they're not gracious. They're trying to double end it, and that's wrong. I'm sorry. You have a responsibility to be that person to help. And I don't know if you're experiencing that. Angie, are you?
I yes and no. What I'm seeing a little bit of that is disappointing to me is when I'm representing the listing side, I see investors and buyers call me directly and say,
Mhm.
I wanted to make sure I could get the deal, so I'm calling you. And I'm like, that's not the way this works.
Right.
And I'm if I write up your offer, it's not going to be any better than the next offer if the numbers different, you know? So what I would like to say, since we're on Facebook Live here, is don't think that you can call the listing agent to get a better deal or to get the deal. Continue to work with the agent that you have that trusted relationship with, and work on something together and be creative together to win those bids. So I see desperation and greediness in a lot of different areas. And I hope we can talk about love letters today too, because that's something that I'm struggling with. But yeah.
One thing I did want to bring up to Deanne's point, I do want to say with Zoom, I really appreciate that you are able to see many more perspectives than you normally wouldn't, because I think with Zoom, a lot of people found their voice. So there's a lot of agents, a lot of people that you normally wouldn't get to speak to, like conferences. I love going to conferences, but now that we're not able to, but we're still having masterminds and talking, now I'm actually able to talk to so many people that I normally wouldn't talk to, and talking to them on a normal basis. And so now I'm hearing a lot more people, and people that I've talked to before, but maybe it was in a busy hallway or in a a busy bar area or inside of a conference room. And now we're actually able to talk about what's going on in their market, what's going on in ours. So I love that Zoom brought a lot of different perspectives out, brought a lot of different views out, brought a lot of people maybe out of their shells that were, a lot of people were so shy at first. I was too. I didn't want to be on camera, on everything. I didn't want to see myself. I hate Zoom. You see yourself the whole time, and that's distracting to me. So I'm like, I don't want to see myself while I'm talking. Like, it's one thing to be on camera, but to see myself while I'm talking. So I think a lot of people got past that, and now you're getting all these people that you're talking to. So I really appreciated that. And even, June 15th, they're saying, oh, California is going to be fully open June 15th. I still think there's going to be more Zooms going on, more webinars. We're not going to go back to completely normal as we were, but at least we'll still be able to get this out of it. So we got a positive out of this whole pandemic type thing.
I agree completely. It was neat. I actually I did a recording of a video with a young professional network friend, and I got a call from the East Coast from somebody that watched that video and wanted some advice. And so I was able to, set up a Zoom with this wonderful couple on the East Coast and talk about investments in different areas and, vacation rentals and things like that. And that was something that, just trying to speak out on YouTube during the pandemic, because wasn't sure what else to do, but thought that would be effective use of time. I'm seeing definitely more relationships being built at a further reach, which is just, I don't know. Well, let's see how far it can go, right?
Right.
And it's helpful because like so much relocation and a lot of things, like with the motion picture industry, they have different studios opening in different states. Well, how nice to be able to go into LinkedIn and different places. And we, with Desiree, because she's just the best, we're able to open that door, find the great agents, and network. How wonderful. I can put out there, like I just did today, I need some referrals, good agents in Las Vegas, Arizona, I already have Texas, but Georgia. And we have a tremendous amount. I know, I see you. But you know what? Having the Zoom and having that reach across the United States, it's really nice because, like, Angie, I know you're not my state, but let's say if you weren't, let's say, Dan, you are. Let's say you have someone who really needs some help. How nice that I know you, I know your capacity, what you can do, that I feel comfortable giving you that client that's moving over. Maybe it's a production company. We have some going to Tennessee. So, having the LinkedIn, the Zooms, doing the training, reaching out, being that resource. And I thank Desiree for it, because I'll tell you, she's really on top of everything. It makes us a better agent, better person.
Completely agree. Another thing, I was talking to Desiree. Desiree wasn't able to get on. She's busy all over the place. And so, but I was talking to her. She brought up a good point. When we all got in the REO industry, and again, just like Laura was saying earlier, the good old boys club, as they used to say, she was reminded me in REOs, they were always like, well, how are you going to do an REO and going to do occupancy checks and go check the property? You're a woman. And it's like, we're going to do it the same way you would. we all wear the same clothes. We go to the property, we open it up. So it's the same thing, but you get that right away, like, or how are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? So we need to stop thinking there's only men do this, only women do this. We all could do this. It just depends on what you choose to do. So that was a good point on with REOs. A lot of that happened, when REOs first started, 20 years ago or whatever it was.
And we've all done the vacancy checks and all of the property checks. I know I've been doing them since COVID because
Right.
they figure we're vital to the industry. Thank God they recognize that. But I mean, you have to be smart and be safe when you go to a
Yes.
property. And I'm going to be doing an article for DS News, et cetera, is the fact, what do you need to do now that we're getting these properties? You need to be safe, and you need to
Yes.
remember, don't park in the driveway because someone could keep you from exiting. Be smart and be cautious. If you feel that it's going to be dangerous, don't go in because it's not really worth it. And if you can, don't go alone. And a lot of times with preservation, there's always a conflict. We're all the same, guys. Be on the same team. If you see something, bring some yellow tape, caution, so that no one will fall through that patio like it would be
Right.
me. Or something like that. But people forget that, but we need to go back to basics and be, safety. I really worry for a lot of people because here in California, we have a lot of squatters. And so we've had them even in the ceilings and attics. So you need to be cautious. But if you see other agents that are getting REO accounts, be that resource, help them because it could be costly in the long run. We don't want to see anyone get hurt.
And I'd say you should have a buddy system. So you should always have a buddy system when you're going to one of these, have somebody go with you just to, be with you, be behind you, have your phone out. And that way someone's always with you, not going by yourself. I know when, back in 2007, we'd have all these properties and I was busy and I'm like, oh, I'll just go do it myself, and I got into some hairy, situations. And so I know now not to go, by yourself, but always have somebody go with you. Always let somebody know where you are. You know, you should call your office, call another agent, just that buddy system, and just don't go to the properties by yourself.
Brandy, that brings another point up. It's like right now, if you have buyers calling on your listings, like some of them I'll have like you say, the investors and everyone calling. I don't know them. Am I going to meet a stranger at the property? No, because there's a lot of not nice people out there. So I think the lady agents need to be a little bit more cautious of who they're showing their listings to, because there's a lot of horrible people out there, and I'm seeing it, all the time.
And Laura, I'll just chime in because this morning I woke up and in my inbox, Realtor magazine at NAR has done such a great job of providing wonderful safety resources to the industry. And, I woke up to an article this morning reminding us of what happened to Beverly Carter and all that her amazing son Carl has done to help ensure that it doesn't happen. And one statistic really stood out at me that, if we're at right now 1.4 million realtors in the nation, in the article, I pulled it up while I was listening to you, Brandy and Laura. It said, nearly a quarter of realtors say they've experienced a situation that made them fear for their personal safety or the safety of their personal information. And that comes from NAR. And, that's the real world we live in. Everything could happen. Something could happen right here while we're sitting in our home, or Angie, wherever you are at, which looks really fun. I'm watching your hair blow and, you look like you're out someplace amazing, but, it can happen anywhere at any time. Yeah. And when you wake up on a morning, you're ready to go take on the world, those kind of messages, I think, bring home again the essence that we're all humans and at any moment something can happen. So I'm glad we're having this discussion about, at the end of the day, what really matters most. And Angie, back to your, the greed. Yeah, at the end of the day, put greed aside when it comes to your safety and what really matters most, so that we can do what we're here to try to do for the right reasons.
And if it feels bad and you feel insecure, walk away, because most of the homes we go into nowadays are vacant. Right. And they've had a lot of times they'll tell you, let your clients walk in. You always walk behind them, not the other way around, so that you have an escape route. And you need to make sure, if you feel in your heart and your stomach something's up, walk away. It's really not worth it.
And they have so many great safety features that you could have even on your phone, but they have alarms that could go off. They have,
Jewelry now.
yeah, flashlight. I mean, they have so many different things. So I'm just be cautious, be aware of your surroundings. You know, we go to homes that we've never been to before, that we've never seen before, and we're walking in, we have no clue. And if we're walking in first and someone's behind us, and so we just need to be aware of our surroundings too. So I try to go to the house before your clients show up, so that you're able to look around before they come to the door. I mean, just be aware of those type of things.
And leave all your expensive jewelry at home and dress down. Don't dress up. Right, Angie?
I have my intention bracelet on today.
And it's really Deanne. No, but you need to, because you know what? You pull up in a nice fancy car and they see you're an easy target.
Mhm.
And always look up, never look down. Always look people in the eyes.
Absolutely.
I think one thing that's helpful for me just to feel at ease is I've got 5 besties, and we're all on fine together, and
Angie,
are in the
cutting.
nation, and they can see where I'm. So you know, you can kind of tell where I'm at. But it's yeah, that's nice. And then also the peds are a nice thing too, because now when an investor calls us that we might not have met yet, we're generating an email and saying we have to have a, you know, a signed form before we can, you know, do any kind of meet up. So that
Right.
you know, it's just a little extra added helpfulness.
And if they don't want to give it, pass. You know, they don't want to give you a copy of their driver's license, who they are, etc. Then
You need a lot more than that to do a deal.
yeah.
4-letter word, next. I mean,
Right.
it's just next. I mean, it's non-negotiable. It's just, this is our protocol. This is what we do for every client, every time, every way. And it's not discriminatory in any way. This is what we do, just actually to protect the seller who needs to know who's coming into their home, plain and simple.
Right.
But have those fair housing best practices in place with your companies. And don't waver. That's the best 4-letter word I ever was taught. Next.
And,
That's a good
and,
word.
and you're wise. I mean, all of us get contacted by so many strange people. And you look at the picture and they say they want to be your friend. This one guy on Facebook, I was dying. He goes, "Oh, you're so attractive. You're perfect for me." And I thought, honey, you need glasses. You better get some recheck over there. I am high maintenance. I'm definitely not perfect for you.
You know, I got I don't get a lot of leads, you know, that would be this amount of money, but I got a $12.9 million lead, and I thought, this is interesting. And it came through a lead source, and I was like, this seems kind of weird. So my spidey senses were already up in the beginning. But he calls me and he's like, "Oh yeah, I want to go see this property." And I'm like, "Okay, great, no problem." But and he goes, "I'm working with somebody who wants to see it." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna need to know their information. You know, how are they gonna be paying for the property?" And he's like, "Well, I don't think she's thought about that yet." And I was like, "Well, no one's gonna let you in a $12.9 million property without knowing anything about you, you know, what you're doing." Like that is like spidey senses, you know, what I want. But he literally was like, "Oh, and I have to see it in the next hour." So he wanted someone to meet him at the property. You couldn't even get into the development for that. You know, it was Bighorn, which is a very big development out here. But it's like, but it was just kind of those things are going on right now. People are just calling, "Oh, I just want to go see the property. Let's go look at the property." It's like something very strange with that.
Or how about the ones that had their wedding planned at a vacant mansion?
Yes, I
And they
saw
didn't
that.
realize that the owner was living on the property. How funny is that? But you know what? We're seeing a lot of it. If they're going
Yeah.
into these homes, like in Beverly Hills and whatever, and they're seeing they're vacant, they're a tenant at will, right? All of
Yeah.
a sudden they moved in, they're a squatter, can't do anything with them. See, you know what? You've opened the door, Brandy, and you let them in. So, you know, wrong, can't do
Well,
that.
well, that's why I didn't. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why it's like that's why I do not let them in. And of course he doesn't call back after that. So you knew it was some
He was
kind
a
of
scam. Yeah.
Yeah, some kind of scam. So clearly, you know, it was just very strange. I was okay, call me back when you guys are ready.
And you'll never get that call back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, and this, you know, we have the eviction moratorium. So you got eviction moratorium, squatters coming in. So have to be very careful what's happening right now.
Now, have you guys noticed lately, like in the past 2 weeks, I'm seeing so many listings and the clients are all excited. They're new buyers, etc. Until you go down to the agent remarks, which 90% of the realtors don't read anyway, but I like to. That's why we have them. And it'll say tenant occupied, subject to the tenant going with the property. How do you sell a tenant included, like a personal property, into the equation? I can't. Deanne, can you figure that out? How does that happen?
No, and it again goes back to something that I know, Angie, we want to get back to with love letters and things like that, and ensuring, you know, back to sort of the topic of the day, unconscious bias, and ensuring that everything we do and every way we do is upholding fair housing. And I know everyone on this call stands for that. And I agree. I mean, Laura, it's in these unusual times, people are not, and again, sometimes I do wonder if it has to do because we're not able, for all the power that Zoom brings and all the ability to communicate in a different way, we're not able to sometimes sit face to face across the table from people. And we as professionals have to get better at articulating, how the system has got to work to do what's right for all. Right. And we are seeing things like that, Laura. And we have to be able to say that, the tenant on the books will carry, period, end of story. It doesn't matter if fans or buts, who, what, where, or when. It doesn't matter if it's a vacation rental. It doesn't matter what it is. Because if there's a lease in place and it's going to convey over, we've got to uphold what's the right thing and keep a roof over people's heads. And for all that did, we briefly mentioned the eviction moratorium, and to see that where the Supreme Court and everyone has ruled on this moving forward, now ensuring that the monies and the funds that were allocated get into the right hands to ensure that the landlords aren't penalized moving forward for trying to provide housing for our wonderful, as I always call our renters of the world, our next generation and our next tier of homeowners. And so I've been pretty passionate about that cause as well. So, and I do too. I'd love to kind of cycle back, Brandy. I mean, you're doing a great job of moderating today. And I did just see a message. Desiree's actually on a plane flying somewhere over one of us. Angie, just a quick shout out. Where are you located right now?
Right now. So maybe she's flying over Utah because she was coming back from New York, wasn't she?
All right. You might want to wake up. Okay. Brandy, tell everybody where you're at.
I'm in California and Laura's in California. I'm Southern California and so is Laura.
Okay, so she's definitely not flying over me, but Angie, she might be over you. So just a big shout out to Desiree.
Watching all of us and listening, she is.
Yeah,
she said she is. She's on the plane listening, and what she's brought to these conversations has been so wonderful to hear what's happening in California and in Utah and in Georgia and New York and all of the places that we're at. But Brandy, before we end, I don't know how much more time we have, but I think Angie's comment earlier about talking about this, because we've been talking about love letters and unconscious bias. I just think that's such a perfect talking point for today.
Yeah, so Angie, if you wanted to start that, go ahead.
Yeah, well, recently I got my At Home with Diversity designation, which is something that I recommend for everybody to do, that basically helps us learn more about unconscious bias and also kind of our previous mistakes so that we don't make those again, historically speaking. And one of the things that I brought up was that these love letters that it has just been tradition in our industry in Southern California anyway, since I've been doing real estate for 15 years, are something that could now be construed as discrimination or, especially if the photos are attached, having some unconscious bias or just, straight up discrimination. And that's something that again, back to having a listing, I had 20 offers, and it was something that, half of them are submitting the letters and the other half aren't. So I'm seeing this divide in our industry right now, and this kind of struggle with, not everybody's got this memo yet, you guys. Yeah. So we get the memo out about the love letters, that it's not something, you can't put the pictures on them. You can't talk about any of the 19 protected classes in the state of California. I don't know how many you have in Georgia, Deanne, but it's something that just really, I think the buyers need to be aware of it as well, because agents have been passing off that task to the buyers to write their own letter, and they don't know anything about what they should and shouldn't be saying. And none of us, like, we all want to do a fair deal. That's what fair housing is about, right? So that's why I just wanted to kind of bring that to light right now and see what you guys are experiencing with your offers, how you're handling the situation with grace, and how you're getting your offers accepted, because that used to be like one of my main ways to do it. So
CAR has been very good. I don't know if it's NAR, probably NAR as well, but I know CAR has been very good about sending constant letters out, emails out, went to the brokers. So in my area, we're not getting love letters. So everyone was told, stop doing it, don't do it. And people at first were like, well, what's the big deal? But then, you give examples. And so one of the examples was, well, okay, so this person chose this person because they didn't have children, or they chose this person because they did. And then people are understanding, okay, so they're not choosing because of my best offer. They're not looking at what the offer is, they're looking at the person. So when you use that example to a buyer, I think they get it more, because if you just say, no, we can't do a love letter, they don't understand, well, why can't I explain to them why I love this house? And that's not true. You can't say that I love this house. You just can't say because your children are going to be playing in the backyard and because of this and that. And so it's just explaining why. But I think CAR has sent out other things, but you're right. There is a few times we get emails. We'll get an email from the agent that doesn't send a love letter, but then they put it right in the email, or they text you and say, okay, my this family, or this person, or so we still see some of it, but I think it's been better lately. I haven't seen a lot of them recently.
And I want to chime in because this is something I really do give a shout out to CAR, because in California, y'all really have led the way on this. And NAR has a great video about why not to do love letters. And if you've not watched it, I would encourage you to Google it up. It's outstanding. But we've kind of in Georgia, because we've had such a problem in our market with, the whole off market and pocket listings becoming a possible fair housing violation and steering. And with love letters coming out in this light too, I think it also has to do with us and our responsibility as realtors and as licensees, that even when we're communicating with the other agent, we're not describing our
Right.
client other than their financial ability.
Right.
That's what really it boils down to. We want to talk about what's fair. It's going to be what's fair as to who can bring the best offer and the best terms and be able to come to closing. And beyond that, yes, they could certainly, as you said, Brandy, say they love the house and they want it, and here's their financial ability. End of story. And I don't know that we as an industry have extended the love letter that we see gets written from a buyer to a seller, where because we're a relationship business, and I always call this is a human contact sport, and we're trying to have the seller feel that the buyer is going to be the best person for this house to carry on the dream and the legacy and have the moments. But they don't see it from the protected classes or the unconscious bias that today was kind of really geared towards.
Right.
And so we've been trying to encourage, our agents that it also, there's an onus and a burden on, and not a burden, it's an opportunity and a privilege to do what's right and what's fair. I misspoke there, but we should not be describing our clients in communicating with the other side anything beyond their financial ability and their intent to close and close on time and to do what the terms of the contract are. And beyond that, we don't need to tell anything else, not to mention it waters down the negotiating ability. Even if we're suggesting that, they're a relocation buyer and they're moving and they've got to be here in 3 weeks. So that just signal they maybe, be a little bit more desperate to get the property. So I just want to add that onto the love letter. It's also the agent's articulation of the client needs to just stay on the facts.
And
I think CAR has a great opportunity to learn all that. I know I have diversity certification, and I learned a lot from that. Like, if you have a client who's a dwarf, you can't say that. You have to say a short in stature, or the different verbiage that you use, even in your ads or anything like that. This house could be built for a family. No, you can't use that anymore.
Use that.
So I think the love letter, obviously, we used to do it years ago, where we take the buyer's hands and put them on the doorknob and take a picture, thinking we can't do that anymore. So you have to be fair to everybody. But I really think, I hope they'll make diversity certification mandatory for anyone who's licensed, because I know I myself have been in this business for 25 years and have 5 offices. I learned a lot, and things change and you've got to change with it. So
And a big shout out to one of our fellow NAWRB certified delegates, Teresa Palacio Smith, has been teaching this nationwide, and she has really been a passionate advocate of this. So just a big shout out to one of our fellow
tremendous. She's
Definitely.
tremendous.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things that, you know, Laura brought it up for, you know, marketing descriptions and things like that. But I thought it was a good kind of thought train to follow is the instructor of the class said to basically, you know, sell the property, not the person.
Right.
Mhm.
Never describe who should be in this property. That is none of our business. It is, you know, what this property has to offer, and who knows who might like that. And that's not for us to decide. That's for the potential buyer to decide. And that's how we got to keep our listing descriptions and keep our letters accordingly and things like that. One thing I kind of wanted to pose to you guys though is, do you see any kind of like reverse boomerang with this? So let me give you an example scenario. Like I had a wonderful experience today where I was up against multiple offers and we won the bid. And I have a super strong client that said I can do all cash or I can do financing. And these are, you know, the two options. But I think back to all these FHA buyers that I have worked tirelessly for and very hard for. And, you know, what comes of them, you know, those who have the 3.5% down, now that all we do consider are the facts and the numbers, you know, how do we still
I'm going to say that is extremely difficult because we have so many. I'm a team leader for my team, and we have so many FHA and VA buyers that normally would get these houses, and they're not because they're getting beat out. Because when you've got 25 offers and you're looking at this and you want to make sure you're not going to have any appraisal issues, you're going to take the cash that's, because these are well over asking, you're going to take the cash with no contingencies. No, they're doing no inspection contingencies, no financing contingencies. And then we're coming in with VA and FHA buyers. So my heart goes out to them. My heart goes out to my buyer's agents. They are tirelessly doing offers after offer. And all I could say is keep on doing it, because we're reaching out to these agents saying, hey, I know I did not win this one, but we're still here. So please call us. And you know what? We've got calls. We've got calls that says, hey, these all my other offers back out. I do not want to put it back in the market because I cannot handle getting 30 more offers and people yelling and screaming and emails, etc. So they came straight back to us and gave our buyer a chance, knowing that they're FHA and VA. Again, we didn't say anything else except for obviously they see what the financing is. So FHA and VA buyers. But so some of those have got through, but other ones have not. So, and those buyers have basically said, hey, I can't do the heartbreak anymore of falling in love with a house, putting in offers and not getting it. So we're going to wait until this craziness subsides, because this is happening. But this is happening to a lot of buyers. A lot of buyers are saying, I'm going to wait because I can't keep putting in offers. So it's hard, but I would just say we have to keep persevering.
Well, I wish that HUD had more properties, because HUD promotes home ownership first 15 days, and they don't care whether it's FHA or whatever.
Right.
But what I cannot tolerate are the agents who represent a lot of sellers. I'm a heavy listing agent, and they say, no, we don't want to do a VA client because it's too much work or whatever. That just sets me off, because you live here free because someone makes that sacrifice. VA sales are so easy, just equally easy. I mean, nothing's boilerplate easy, but I mean, I think we need to educate the fact that market is going to change, guys, and we're going to see a lot of lawsuits, I think, for a lot of agents who represent their clients in buying and say, waive this, waive that, waive this. And when they all of a sudden the market drops and they paid $400,000, which I'm seeing quite often in my area, over market, and now the value is not there, guess who they're going to sue? That agent. So they're waiving inspections. Are you crazy? I mean, why would you do that? And appraisals? I mean, appraisals, I feel sorry for them. They can't even get the values down because these people are going insane.
It's crazy.
Yeah, you have something to say, I see.
Unfortunate though.
Anything else on this topic? I think it's hard for a lot of people. Obviously, for people who don't know, I'm sure everyone's seeing it all markets, but we have low inventory. And so with that low inventory, we're getting multiple offers. The good thing is there is a lot of buyers. Bad thing is low inventory on properties. So
Right.
multiple offers on most properties. And I think the most thing is just come in strong. We're getting a lot of people right now, which is unfortunate as well. They come in with a cash offer because they're trying to beat out others, and then they're switching it to financing.
Yeah.
I have an REO right now. I'm supposed to close Tuesday. So we're closing Tuesday, and they just told us today, oh, by the way, we're not cash, we're financing. And I'm like, well, how are you going to close Tuesday? And we had all these other offers, and the bank chose theirs because it was cash, because the house needs a lot of work, and now they're switching to financing. So, and that's not, it's been happening a lot lately. So please don't bait and switch.
Baiting and switching. That's so frustrating.
Yeah.
When they bid it all the way up and then think that when the appraisal comes in low, they're just gonna knock it down. It's just dirty real estate practices. Let's keep it clean, above board.
They call that renegotiation.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you know, like I said, I list heavy. I have put myself in a position where I do not represent buyers. So on my, I'm basically there to help the agents because I do a lot of government listings and foreclosures and stuff like that. I want to make sure that I'm fair to help the agents learn the process. A lot of them don't know that. So that puts me out of the equation. Like you said, Angie, how many investors, they offer you the sun, the moon, and the stars. I don't want to work with someone like that. If you're going to treat your realtor and you're going to say, okay, Laura, I love you. You've got this great listing. And this agent's worked with you for a year and showed you all these properties. I would never want a client like that. Dan, would you want a client like that?
No.
How about you, Angie? 10 of them?
Not here to be used and abused.
Yeah. I mean, you have to respect the other people that are licensed and work really hard, and you'll have to look in the mirror and like who you see and work with integrity. And if you can help someone get that home or have their first home with a family, I love to do that. I mean, right now we're getting on the last property, a small property on it built in 1915. They need a lot of work in South Pasadena, had 37 offers, and I had 300 phone calls in 2 days. And it needed a lot of work, and it sold, I mean, very high. But lucky it sold to a family and another realtor, and I helped her do it. But it's a crazy market.
It is. But it's a good market as well. So on the positive side, a lot of agents are very busy. And so a lot of these agents that didn't think they would survive during COVID have been very busy and have been getting their businesses back. So, and businesses are coming back. So in the commercial world, we're getting a lot of our restaurants back open. One of my commercial spaces, we're putting a new restaurant in. So seeing new restaurants come into the economy again is, you know, a big plus. I have a gym coming up that we were worried about, but I think, you know, someone will rent that as a gym. So there's just a lot of revitalization coming to the cities back as well. And so hopefully people could still thrive in this market in residential and commercial.
Yeah, it shook it up a bit, and it's not a bad thing when we get shaken up a bit, because then we get to, you know, sometimes things settle differently and as they should be, and we're making progress and on all kinds of different levels, which is important.
And we're seeing the film industry coming back fully strong, back in production. They're going to need people to hire people because they have so much that they've been waiting to do. Now they can do it. The studios have the money. And I'm seeing so many people back to work, and it's really a good thing.
That is nice. Absolutely.
I agree.
I wanted to say one thing that I'm seeing, and just, I don't know if you ladies are seeing that as well, but when it comes to trying to get our offers accepted, it now seems, because before we used to kind of play upon the heartstrings, and that's not available anymore. So I'm winning the bid by being the most organized, most efficient, and most proactive agent right now. So I started in California. There's this thing called the offer summary page,
Mhm.
and it's in the car forms that we can add on. And so I'm adding that cover page onto every single offer that I do, and making sure that the lender not only includes a pre-approval, but also a DU and direct underwriting and different things to, you know, if you can't get them on an emotional level, then now we have to get them on the, we're the cleanest package, and all of those types of things. So to those of you who are struggling and wrote your 9th offer, 10th offer, 13th offer, keep trying, and just remember, sometimes that organization is key. I send out LinkedIn connections to agents, and looking forward to doing a deal with you, or, thanks for considering my offer. Let's stay connected, whether we open escrow on this one or not, and just kind of trying to continue to build up those connections like Desiree would, because even if we can't do a deal this time, if they respect the way that you set something up, as agents, we know that we have influence with our sellers, and that's something that, try to get in good on with the other agent as best you can, and then that kind of helps you get in.
And also give a proof of payment. Even if you're doing a loan, you always see a lender letter, and then they're doing 20% down, but they don't give proof of the 20% down. Start giving proof of that with your DU underwriting, and make it so that listing agent doesn't have to ask. With so many offers, they don't have time to go through and ask every single person who's missing something. So have the strongest offer when you bring it over.
Let me chime in here, because we've all endured the unimaginable, the unexpected, something we didn't even know what the consequences would be. And yeah, I think it's a great time. So many of us were probably very, very proficient and very, adapt to getting listing presentations, getting and setting the expectations for sellers. But I know in good markets, sometimes we kind of strayed from really sitting down and consulting and strategizing and coming up with a strategic plan for a buyer. And I think so often now, if we just took that extra time to set the expectations, manage the expectations. You do hear, yes, it's a crazy market. There's always multiple offers, but people are buying and selling. And we've got to just pause for a moment from how we were doing things and approach things with the now norm. It's how we do things, and challenge each of us that, with each lesson we're going through, how could we approach the next opportunity with better consultation up front? That's going to, I think, help us all manage the outcome better.
Good point.
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming on to the call. Next month will be theme number 7. If you have any questions regarding NAWRB, you can reach out to our lovely Desiree, who's not on the call today. But I want to thank everyone for being on the call, and I'll see you guys soon.
Have a great week, everybody.
Take care,
Bye.
everyone. Stay safe.
Bye-bye. Thank you.